When you're creating automations in Airtable, you can control exactly what conditions should trigger each rule that you set up. Each automation consists of a trigger and an action. The trigger is what sets your automation in motion. To create a trigger, open the Automations panel in any base and click the Create an Automation button. From here, you can set up your trigger and choose the option that works best for your needs. If you want to trigger an automation whenever a record is created in your table, choose when a record is created. Simply choose your preferred table and this automation will run whenever a new record is created in that table. This trigger is especially useful for workflows that always begin with a form submission. Here we've got a form set up for our team to request new social campaigns, and anytime this form is filled out, our automation will trigger. In most cases, you'll want more control over when an automation is triggered. To set specific criteria for your trigger, choose when a record matches conditions. With this trigger, you can create one or more filters to choose the conditions that a record should meet in order to trigger your automation. Let's say we want to set up a trigger for every approved campaign that's currently in progress. We can set up 2 filters here to capture records that meet those conditions. Now, whenever a campaign is checked as approved and in progress, it'll trigger our automation. Maybe you have a view where you've already set up the conditions you'd like to base your automation on. To tie your trigger directly to that view, choose when a record enters a view. You can choose any view from the drop-down menu in the Automations Builder, and it'll inherit the conditions from the view, as well as any changes you make to that view's filters moving forward. Here, we've already got an approved in-progress view that has the filters we want. Whenever a campaign filters into this view, it'll trigger our automation. If you want to monitor more granular changes to certain records, choose when a record is updated. This trigger lets you set off automations for all changes to a record in your table or in a specific view. You can monitor for all changes to that record or just the specific fields. The campaigns in this view are tagged as urgent, and we like to keep a closer eye on their progress. Tying this automation to our urgent campaigns view allows us to trigger anytime the status of one of these campaigns is updated. Your workflow may have inputs outside of Airtable. If you want to use one of those apps to trigger an automation, you can choose from several external applications. Let's say we have a shared calendar for tracking campaign-related meetings, and we want to sync those events to our campaign space. This allows us to capture meeting notes and action items in the context of our work without having to manually set up those events in 2 different places. The Google Calendar trigger for when an event is created will allow us to trigger a new automation every time an event is added to that calendar. And we're adding new triggers all the time, so keep an eye out for new options. Now that you have an idea of what triggers you can set up with Airtable automations, let's explore what actions you can take from here.